Well, hello again out there. This is John Miller, founding attorney of Rock Solid Law, celebrating 30 years of independent practice with my own firm, and really enjoying the practice. Rock Solid Law has recently moved back to Ponte, Vedra, where we started in 1991. And of course, we invite anybody who'd like to come have a tour of our new office and see our new digs. We're really enjoying it. Starting to get all the art on the wall. We're close. We're very, very close. So that should all be happening very soon. Many of you probably know we specialize in providing estate planning for families. I consider the nuclear family the core of our American culture. And I believe that estate planning law, wills and trusts, et cetera, truly keep families strong and benefit us all as Americans. I love that part of the practice. We also provide real estate services, closing, title, escrow. And the reason I love that practice is I truly believe that homeownership is the cornerstone of the American dream, and then helping people build wealth through real property acquisition is another very, very worthwhile part of the practice. And then finally, I grew up in the business practice. I was a trial lawyer, some of you know, and transitioned into the transactional phase of that, which means I love representing entrepreneurial small business owners. I believe that small business is the heartbeat of the American economy, and particularly through this shutdown, keeping small business strong has been a real goal of ours. And while there have been, it's funny, I got a wild hair today, don't I? I guess it's Thursday. Huh. Well, I'm just going to have to try to ignore that. So I hate about Zoom is I got to look at myself the whole time I'm talking to you guys. Anyway, most of our small businesses have made it. Many have prospered, and we'd like to think that being clients of Rock Solid Law has helped in that regard. Just like to take a quick moment this morning. I'm just back from a trip this week to Richmond, Virginia. I am originally Virginian. Many of you may already know that. I attended a conference, or a session of a conference of the National Association of Attorneys General. And the reason I went up is this particular session was in honor of General Andrew Pickens Miller, who was my father's older brother. He's recently passed, and Uncle Andrew, or Andy, as people knew him, was an amazing man, did some wonderful things, and was in fact the Attorney General of Virginia for a number of years, and apparently restructured and reorganized that office in a way that has been often copied, and was recognized by the National Association of Attorneys General for his accomplishments in that regard. So I just want a quick shout out to my cousins and to my aunt, Penny Farthing, an amazing attorney in Washington, D.C. in her own right, and in memory of my dear uncle and his fantastic life's work. So it's just a week that I'm particularly thinking about him, and thank you for allowing me to share that with you for a moment. So if you're new to us, I have exactly one rule on these webinars, and that is no question is a bad question except an unasked question. So there are two ways that you can ask a question. First off, there is a chat bar at the bottom of your screen, right in there. If you want to ask a question, I will certainly tend to it at the end of the session, if not interrupt right in the middle, and address it if it's timely at that moment. Then you can write as an alternative questions at rocksolidlaw.com, questions at rocksolidlaw.com. And that will be directed to me or another attorney here at Rock Solid Law and title. And we would love to handle those questions. A lot of times folks prefer, if it's a fact sensitive or very personal question, to not ask it on the live webinar, which is recorded and is in our stored and available for reviewing at our website, rocksolidlaw.com/videos. And so that's it for ground rules. So today we're going to talk about the fact that estate planning is about the planning and not the documents. A lot of people think that a will or a trust is just a piece of paper with a bunch of words on it, which I guess at heart it is, but the words are not what's important about the process or the effect that those documents have on your own life and the life of the people you love the most, or the things you love the most. Working with some people that are working with charities these days, which we love to do here at Rock Solid. I'm asked all the time why planning is relatively expensive, given that there are documents that can be found on the internet or on the shelf of an office supply form. And then there are these very, very inexpensive, it rhymes with doom, services online that can spit out some documents for you. And I'll tell you, the documents are only the paper and ink. I have seen many of those documents that we're talking about now, and they're literally not worth the paper they're printed on. They have no analytical thought process behind them. They are the lowest common denominator. When people ask me about those services, my response is typically, well, it's better than nothing, but just barely. The problem is laws relating to testamentary gifts, and that's what we're talking about here, are very specific in each state. And they are, of course, governed by federal laws, including the tax code. So if you do it yourself, and if you screw up, if those two things happen, you leave a huge problem for the people you love the most after you're gone. And the problem with that is at just the time when you are intended to be celebrated, instead, they're dealing with a huge problem, including a judge, a court case, some lawyers, legal fees, and they're probably being denied access to your gifts that you've left for them, your money. So they're having to figure out how to pay to have all this happen. So that's just not a good situation. And that's usually what happens when somebody dies without any planning, no will, no trust, or really basic stock documents, I guess is what it is. I've been thinking a lot this week. If you know me, you know that my favorite band in the world is the Rolling Stones. And of course, their drummer, Charlie Watts, died a couple of days ago. I've been thinking about, how we each lead our lives and the fact that there is just this outpouring of love for Charlie Watts for people that clearly didn't ever meet him. They either heard his recorded music or maybe saw him in concert. And that he led a life that affected so many people in such a positive way. By the way, as a musician, his drumming was extraordinary. His timing impeccable. And he never played a note that didn't need to be played. He's just an amazing drummer. And I would argue that he was the last member to join the Stones. And I would argue that they would never have achieved the success that they have without their drummer. And I think Keith Richards has been on record as saying that. Anyway, people are celebrating him. And I didn't have the privilege of doing his estate planning. But I will say that I'm going to guess that he had some pretty darn good estate planning over there in England and has left his family to grieve and to celebrate him without the hassle of the ongoing problems that can be created by not planning. So once again, the documents are only pencil or pen and paper, right? It really comes down to a small book that is intended to reflect your wishes. And it really takes specialized knowledge as well as specialized creation of documents, right, in order to truly express your wishes. What's important is not the documents, but the strategies behind the words. And those strategies should be developed to reflect your values, what you care about, by someone who knows the law and can make the words that put your values into effect after you're gone. So essentially, a well-crafted, personalized plan will take care of you for the rest of your life in the event that you cannot take care of yourself. And then it also takes care of those that you love the most and takes the maximum advantage of the tax code. It may cost you a little more in the short run. It will. But in terms of time, money, frustration, and publicity, both for yourself and for those that you love most, it's going to cost significantly more in the long run if you go cheap now. Additionally, those stock, I don't even want to call them a plan, documents, don't even have the possibility of reflecting your values. And that's what we here at Rock Solid Law and Title stake our claim on, because what I'm about is protecting families and making families strong. I told you at the beginning of this about my uncle. And he was an amazing attorney. One of the few in our family. He and I are the black sheep, quote unquote, because the rest of our family tree are mostly ministers, Presbyterian ministers, and soldiers. Sometimes I'd like to say they were both soldiers and preachers at the same time. So my dad was a civil rights activist and an amazing minister. And he left a trust that left us in good shape and expressed his values along with my mother. And the same was true of my uncle. Interestingly, you may enjoy this story. I've got a couple of minutes, so I will give you an aside. He had written in there that he wanted no funeral, no life celebration, no deet, all those things he said no to. But the Attorney General, the current Attorney General of Virginia, gave an illegal opinion that did not preclude the Association of Attorneys General from honoring him at their annual meeting. So that's what I attended the other day. Anyway, when we at Rock Solid Law work with somebody on an estate plan, the focus is always on YOU. It's about how you wish to be treated as you age. It's about writing the ultimate chapters of your heroic life story. So you will be celebrated in the manner that you should be. It can be about taking care of your heirs, your children, your grandchildren. Maybe your heir is a charity. It most definitely should be about your legacy, because I heard a quote once that you die twice. The first time when this carbon-based physical body shuts down, and the second time is the last time someone thinks about you. I love that quote. And as long as satisfaction is played, people will think of Charlie Watts. And I hope to leave my own legacy that there will be families that we have protected that will think of us for a long, long time. I found that most people think about something bigger than ourselves. And that's what we write into our documents. It's also about deciding whether you're only going to pay mandatory taxes or whether you choose to pay the voluntary taxes also. It's about maximizing your prosperity during your life. And yes, it's about how you will share your love and your life's abundance with those you treasure. how you want, and when you want, all at the least expense possible. We look at big picture expense. Listen, I'm sure you know somebody who's a shopaholic, right? And the funniest story I heard was, somebody came home with a pair of size 15 shoes and actually wore only size 9 shoes. And someone else asked, well, what'd you buy those for? And the answer was, well, they were really on sale, so I got a great deal on something that doesn't fit. I would liken that to the will or trust that comes out of one of these services or off the shelf and is supposed to fit somebody. But candidly, one size fits all rarely fits anyone perfectly. So you really only do get what you pay for. We have tire kickers all the time. How much does a will cost? How much does a trust cost? I can't tell you that until I get to know you and know what you need, right? So it as in most things in life, I have learned in my 60 plus years, if you go cheap, you're likely to be buying a problem for either yourself or those you love the most, right? We are not the most expensive law firm in town, but we give great value for the services we provide. That's what I care about. I care about the value we provide in an ongoing manner. We're not a one and done shop. We like to make relationships with our great clients. We provide ongoing value in making sure that we have protected what you care about in your plan. And that's why when someone calls and says, how much is a fill in the blank? I say, I don't know. And I'm not telling you over the phone. And they get mad sometimes. But any lawyer that quotes over the phone a price for a will is lying to you because they don't know how much they really should charge, or they're just writing the same piece of paper for everybody. And it's not going to be right for anybody. And it's going to throw every single person into probate in front of that judge. And instead of going to the beach, your heirs are going to be going to court, and they're going to be remembering you every time they have to go, I promise you. So one size doesn't fit all. And you truly do get what you pay for. And that's why it's so important to strategize on what you're going to leave behind as a legacy for those you love the most. So listen, I appreciate your time this morning. Not seeing any questions so far. One last chance to type one in to the chat bar. But for joining this morning, if you'd like to sit and talk, I will give you an hour, which the consultation usually costs, I think, $450. So I'll give it to you at no charge. I'll waive the fee just so we can talk about what you need. And at the end of that time, typically I am able to quote a price because I know you well enough to know what services really fit your lifestyle. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I am John Miller, founding attorney at Rock Solid Law and Title. You're in beautiful Ponte Vedra Beach, Jacksonville Beach. And we just love being a great part of this community. I'm not seeing any questions. So look out for a notification of our next webinar. I think it's 2 weeks from today, which would be September 9th, if I'm right. And please join us then if you'd like to. Once again, here are the Commodores with Zoom. Have an awesome day.